In this video, you're gonna learn the easiest way to create layer masks. We're gonna cut people out. It's actually really easy. Just go up to select subject and hit a layer mask. Boom. But bald guys are easy. What happens when... All right, that was weird for me too. Let's not do that again. The point is that some selections can be trickier than others. Until today, I'm gonna show you all the secrets to get the very best selections in Photoshop. All right, to get started, let's go to File, let's go to Open. And in your exercise files, there is a folder called O2 Selections and Masking. And let's open up 5 files, okay? I want select subject 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So select subject. Open all 5 of those. Basically what I've tried to do is this first one here, subject 1, is pretty easy to do, and they slowly get harder and harder because often you see tutorials online and you're like, yeah, use this tool and it's amazing and you know, it works perfect. And then you go and use it and you're like, am I doing it wrong or is it too good to be true? So often with anything in Photoshop, it works perfect in the perfect situation. And I will show you what happens when it doesn't and how to fix it. So we can become professionals and realistic professionals. So let's start with subject 1.
Hi everyone, little update to this video. The technique hasn't really changed. They just changed where you can access this thing called select subject. In this video and the rest of the course, I'm going to show you where select subject is. Okay, but look, they've put it handily here. Okay, so if you're like, why aren't we using this version? We should be. It's exactly the same, just in a different place. If I click this, I get the same selection. And one other thing they've done is in this video, and what we do a lot in this course is we select subject and then hit a layer mask. Can you see there's a layer mask over here? Or you can hit add layer mask here. You can jump and cut to the chase. If I go undo again. So I've just got the file open. If you hit remove background, basically it's going to do select subject and add the layer mask in one go. Look at that. Again, the technique is the same, just saves on a few steps. So a nice little upgrade. The other thing you'll notice is that I work through like some problematic parts in this video, like how to fix some of the bad selections. What you'll find in your version and in this new version of Photoshop is that actually it does a way better job than I get in this course. I'm going to leave those in there because you will get versions that are bad and you need to know how to fix them. You'll just notice that your version of Photoshop does a better job than it does in mine in this video, which is awesome. Good work, Photoshop. All right, little update, same techniques, but they're moved into this thing called the contextually sensitive taskbar. One note, if you haven't seen it already in the Essentials course, if this is jumping around too much for you and kind of following you around getting in the way, you can hit this little bar here and say, let's pin this bar, grab the edge here and just say, stay over there, and it will just remain there, kind of out of the way. All right, on with the video.
Look at that selection. Now don't worry, it's not absolutely 100% perfect. It gets you 80% of the way there. Let's look at the selection by adding a layer mask. Click on that. You can see there's a few issues going on that we can fix up reasonably easy using one of the other cool new tools called Selector Mask. But it's pretty amazing how it uses something called Adobe Sensei, which is Adobe's artificial intelligence, machine learning. I don't really know which of those it is. It's fancy though. It looks at lots of other images online and tries to calculate a selection based on kind of past images. To be honest, I don't know how it works, but I do know how to fix our selection because there's a few little bits that adjust. You can see around the beard there. Sometimes it's just perfect. I found one that was kind of half good. It's done a pretty good job. So to fix it up, what we're going to do is just make sure your mask is selected over here. Okay, so not the image, click the mask. Then click on Select a Mask, another really cool feature. Now up the top here, yours is probably set to onion skin. Let's go against on black. It's going to give us a really good contrast between the background and the model. Okay, and I've got my opacity right up if yours is not. Now in these features here, yours might be all twirled up nice and pretty like that. Okay, there is no like exact thing that I use every time. There is a lot of playing. So you might spend, like we spent like absolutely like 3 seconds doing the initial mask, but you might spend another minute or two dragging these sliders up and down to see what it does. Edge detection is going to work reasonably well in this one because I've practiced. Okay, basically what it does, it just gives you a kind of a fluffy edge for it to do some more calculations in. Smart radius on, smart radius off. Don't worry too much about like what smart radius does. Do it on and off to see, does it make it better? In my case, no. Does it make it worse? I think I like it on. Leaves a bit more detail here. I'm going to close up edge detection. Let's go to global refinements. Smoothing it out. It probably needs a little bit. There's a few bits that are a bit jaggedy over here. And if you're like, did I make it better or worse? See up here it says show original, turn that on, turn that off. We made it a load better. Okay, so P key, you can just toggle that on your keyboard. See the thing in the brackets there? P on, P off. All right, feather I never use. You might have an experiment with it and you might love it. Same with contrast. Shift edge I use a bit just to kind of tuck it in a little bit. There's a bit of ghosting around the outside. So how much? Now shift edge and this one down here called decontaminate colors, I kind of fight between. Sometimes I use this, sometimes I use this one. Let's turn on decontaminate colors. Just have a look at the hair along the top. So off, on, it just kind of helps extract the image from the background. So sometimes it's shifting the edge in a little bit or decontaminate colors. In this case, I'm doing a bit of both. Let's go back out. It's looking pretty good. There are some manual touch-ups I need to do. Okay, like there's a bit of a shoulder missing. So what we're going to use is this option here. Okay, the third option down, the brush tool. This is basically, I'm just going to click and drag. It just kind of adds the background back in one big foul swoop. Because this thing's doing so many calculations over here, my drag is taking forever to kind of populate. So I'm going to undo that. I'm going to zoom in, move down, and I'm just going to paint in with my paintbrush, give it a second. So I'm just going to paint in some of the kind of poorer areas. It's all looking good. There's a few bits of ears that I might touch up. So with it natural, okay, it just paints things back in. I'm going to undo that. If you hold down the Alt key on a PC or the Option key on a Mac, it's really hard to see here on the screen, but there's a little plus that turns into a minus. So I'm just going to toggle that a little bit off. A little fluff from his ear. That probably needs a couple of clicks. Fix up the beard there. You can see it's always calculating. That's why it's a little bit hard in this area. This mask and select program to be very quick. Depends on how fast your computer is, how big the image is, how much of these dials you've messed around with. I'm happy enough with it. Like, it's a pretty good mask, right? And it really depends on its final position. I'm going to put mine on the brickwork, which is subject 5, and it's going to be pretty forgiving. So let's click OK. What you'll notice is if you turn on decontaminate colors, that last little option, instead of updating your current layer mask, it will create its own one. So I want to move it to this last tab here. I can grab my move tool, click, hold, drag, 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 hold in the tab and then drag it back down. And pretty awesome mask. Cool, huh? Let's look at a few more examples and go a bit deeper with this kind of model selection. So I'm at select subject 2. Let's do the same thing. Let's go to select. Let's go to subject, kick back or relax, and be amazed. This one here is a lot different because there's a lot more kind of like fine here, which is always a problem when you're selecting models. Even so, it's done a pretty amazing job, huh? There's a little bit of stuff here where the color is jacket's very similar to the background, but let's just apply the mask and see where we're at. Now you might decide, actually, that's it. That's good enough for me. I am out of here. It's a pretty amazing tool. Well done, Photoshop software engineers. But let's go into it a little bit more detail. So make sure you've got your mask selected and let's go to select a mask. You can see against black, okay, there's some issues. Now, if in the last image, we had a pretty consistent line around the outside. The guy had a nice clean edge and not frizzy hair like this person. Okay, nice, easy to mask hair. This person, not so easy. I find this better as a two-step process. You've got global controls that does every single edge here. Then you can use your brushes to do little bits. So I find I get the big global stuff done first and then come back into here to do things like here. So in here, there's a bit of experimenting. I'm just looking at some of these edges. Like, here we go. We'll use this bit here. So radius, drag it up. Am I happy with it? It's getting better. Remember P on your keyboard? I think I liked it better before. I think it needs a little bit of smoothing. There's too many like jagged bits. I'm just going to smooth it out a little bit. There you go. It's starting to look nice. Radius. There are no settings specific. Okay, it's just, it depends on your image and depends the look I'm looking for. I think that's a pretty good one. So P key, tap it on, tap it off. Ignore the hair, but look at the edges of the jacket. It's done a whole lot better. Great, so I've finished that now. I'm going to click OK. Because now I want to go back into it. So the same thing again, select a mask and work on just this because these are all reset back to 0. If you don't, and you start using this tool here, the redefine edge tool, It just becomes a bit messy. It's all trying to do this, lots of things at the same time. So this tool here, brilliant. Watch this. Prepare yourselves. Click, drag. And I'm dragging, and you're like, oh, it's okay, not bad. Wait for it when I let go. Magic. There's some amazingly selected here. There's a little bit of ghosting around it, which we can fix. But you can see all this hair that doesn't exist, and it magically does. Watch this. Click and drag. So good. And what I might do is, there's a couple of things. One last thing. His eyebrows need just a tiny bit of work. Okay, what I might do is smaller brush size and just kind of work them around here. And there's this bit in here. Will the refine edge work on it? Oh, it did. I thought I was going to have to jump to this plain old paintbrush, but you impressed me more. Cool. From here on in, like it depends on where you're using it again. If against black, you're going to have to spend a bit more time in here. I want to touch on decontaminate colors. Nah, it's not for me. If you ever turn that on, it's going to create this new layer with mask. I want to go back to just updating my layer mask, please, rather than a whole new layer. Click OK. How happy am I with it? I'm going to copy and paste it onto here and check it. Let's turn you off. Goodbye, Winky Man. Back to subject 2, and instead of dragging it, people hate this. I hate it. It's a pain doing it that way. I'm just going to show you another way because we're here for some advanced tips, right? So right click, layer 0. You might already know this way. Go to duplicate layer, and it'll allow you to put it on anything that's open. And there's our select subject 5. Click OK, and then jump to select 5, and there he is. The cool thing about it, he comes with his layer mask, which is handy. He's a bit small for this image, and the top of it's clipped, but you get the idea, right? And look at the hair. Look at the hair selection. Oh, so good. Eyebrow selection, 100% eyebrow selection. So with a bit of practice, if this is something you're doing regularly, you could imagine how fast you could make this. We've been learning it together. I've been teaching you. It's only taken a couple of minutes. All right, let's turn this fella off and get to our subject 3. All right, so this guy has some issues. Well, not issues. Let's have a look. Let's go to select and go to subject. I want to show you what ends up happening. Okay, it's going to miss bits is what it's going to do. You can see there's a bit on the elbow down here that just doesn't match up. There's a bit that it hasn't got there. That's okay. It's done a pretty good job. It's starting to stretch up these things, and that's what's the problem in this one, is that the background has, see all these kind of streaks heading up through the wood? Okay, they are going to cause problems when we try and fix it up. So yeah, we'll just go a little bit further with this third option with a few extra issues, because the first two are pretty easy. Still pretty amazing. Let's click on our layer mask. Again, you might decide, job done. With it selected though, we're going to go to select and mask, and yeah, there's a few little issues. Can we fix this up globally? It's mainly just the hair. The actual sides of him look okay. Maybe let's do a little bit of smoothing just to kind of even out some of that. Okay, maybe the peaky on and off. This bit here, I could use my refine edge brush. Let's go here and let's try and drag across this. And this is where we'll find it's kind of working, but kind of not. It's because there's a big lump of wood, dark wood running up here. So it really wants to kind of reach into there rather than have a nice crisp edge. So to get around things like that, you're actually going to have to do some actual physical painting using the brush tool. So I've got the brush tool, but I want to use minus. I'm just going to manually tweak this out. The cool thing about using the brush tool and using these settings is that you're brushing, but it's also applying this kind of smoothing to it as well. There's a bit down here that we need to get rid of, and that refine edge brush is never going to work. So we're going to tidy these up manually. Brush sizes. Why doesn't it work? Because I've tried it and I couldn't make it work. There is just times where you're going to have to get in there with a teeny tiny paintbrush. As long as you're inside select and mask and you've made some of these adjustments like smooth, while you are going, it's adjusting. It can slow your computer down a little bit though. So yep, goodbye. Cool. So I've done the edges, now I want to do the hair. And what I like to do, instead of going in and doing the edges of the hair now, I like to click OK and come back in. Why? Because it's trying to do that smoothing all the time when I'm using my refine edge brush. And they're kind of fighting with each other, and I don't like that. I find it doesn't give me a nice result. So I click OK and then just go straight back in, and everything's set back to 0. See, smoothing is at 0. Now I get to go to refine edge tool. How big is my brush? That works for me. Let's have a little look. I'm just going to rub across his beard. It's quite intimate here with the man's beard. Lovely tool. So it's all about the combination of tools in Photoshop once you get to kind of an advanced level, right? It's knowing which tools to use, which is the hardest thing, and that's why I'm here to show you. But it's also combining them. Now, can you see here, this is a bit of a problem because there is a streak of wood that runs up there. Okay, and that's what's giving us our problems here. So what we're gonna have to do is just get in super tiny. This is the way to get around these kind of issues. Okay, so get in super tiny. I'm holding down the Alt key on a PC. When I say get in super tiny, I say go get in nice and close. Okay, and I'm gonna hold down the Option key on my Mac, Alt key on a PC, and just get rid of these. Okay, even smaller brush. And you can find you can kind of work it back in and back out. So just small little parts. There we go. P key before, after. Cool. Just working around. See, it looks good. Not sure why the beard seems more, it seems more personal. Cut a man's hair, I'm sure I could. Trimming his beard. You don't need to know this. All right, ear. Now the ear here, I'm reluctant to hit it with this tool because it'll kind of make his ear all wishy-washy. I know it's a nice solid part of skin, so I'm gonna go to my brush tool and just use my minus, okay? Make it a bit bigger, holding down the minus key, or the Alt key on my, sorry, the Option key on my Mac, the Alt key on my PC. I'm just gonna go around here and just manually tidy it up. All right, my friends, you're looking handsome. Let's click OK. Cool mask. Let's move it to this other document, and I'm gonna share with you one last kind of moving it to another document trick. Okay, so we've done the drag, we've done the duplicate. There's an old but new updated feature, copy and paste. The reason you probably don't use copy and paste is in the past you went select all, copy, paste, and it only brought through either the image or the mask. You can see it here, it didn't bring in the whole like little group, but that's been fixed by Adobe. So instead of doing like a select all and copy, just go to, so I got this layer selected, okay, got the word, that layer selected there, just go to copy. You can use your shortcut, okay, Command C on a Mac, and then go to here and go to paste, and magic, Photoshop has fixed it and brings through the mask and the image. So no more drag, drag, drag into the tab. You've got an older version of Photoshop, you'll still have to do it, but 2018 on, you can just go Command C, Command V. Brings through things like bevel and embosses and drop shadows and all sorts of cool stuff now. Just select the layers you want, copy it, paste it, brings everything through. All right, let's look at our last one, and this is the hardest of them all. Okay, it's still pretty amazing. Let's go to select, subject. There's just a lot of work to do this one. I want to show you what I would do here, but there is just some manual labor. It's done a pretty good job for most of it. Okay, I'm going to add a layer mask. Now, that's not working, right? It's got a lot of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, instead of going in and trying to fix it all in the, remember the select and mask, which we've done, we're going to utilize the quick selection tool. Now, if you are old school Photoshop and you're like magic wand tool, quick selection tool, we don't use them because they're terrible. It is amazing. Quick selection tool. Okay. I'm going to go through and do a couple of bits. First of all, I don't need any of this. So what I might do is actually just start with my rectangle marquee tool, hold down the Option key on my Mac, Alt key on a PC, and drag a box around it to say, I do not want any of that. If you're like me and you're like, I wonder what's still selected, probably an easy way is just to toggle that button. Okay, just kind of makes everything red to show you what you've got selected and what you don't, and toggle it off. All right, so back to our quick selection tool. Turn on auto enhance, it makes it better. Not sure why it would not be on. Okay, I'm gonna zoom in, and I find this is a good way to get kind of closer to where you need to be to do the finer adjustments in the selector masks. So I'm gonna add, quick selection tool is pretty amazing. It itself learns as you go, so you'll find your initial selections can be okay, but as you go along, it's not actually just clicking on here, it's actually going back and looking at the rest of the selection and making adjustments, okay, because it knows more. It's, oh man, it's smart. You can see there, it just gets better and better as it learns what I want and what I don't want. Just clicking and dragging down here, doing a bit of a loop around here. Let's grab too much in there. Now I find as well, if I did a big drag there, it kind of went, it started spreading out too much. So I'm going to step backwards. So edit, step backwards a bunch of times. Step backwards, I'm using that shortcut. Okay, just clicking once and once is actually probably a nicer way of using it. And it went and did it anyway. Go away you. Don't listen to me. I'm holding down the Option key on my Mac to remove from the selection. Okay, so naturally it wants to add to the selection, but you can hold down the Option key on a Mac, Alt key on a PC to remove from the selection, get rid of the stuff. If you get lost in here, remember, just tap on this again, the quick selection. I only use that for that to make it red. I don't use that tool anymore. It was cool. So you can see here, blue and blue, it's pretty amazing how good it gets. There's probably going to be some issues with the shoelace. There's definitely some issues with the shoe down here. And for the moment, I'm going to ignore the shoelace, just otherwise you'll be watching me forever. I'm just giving it a bit of a once over, looking around, anything that I do or don't want. Just a little bit in here. What I'm going to do is I'll get the editor to speed up this last little bit because it's just me being probably a little bit pedantic. So see you at the end. All right, you're back, and yeah, so a little bit more, well, a lot more work, but still, it got a lot of that, got 70% of there, right? I'm gonna add a layer mask, and I go into my selector mask. I'm gonna look at some global overall changes, probably smooth a little bit, just to smooth it out a bit. Smart radius, it's pretty good. I'm happy enough with it. So I did retouching for a lot of years, and you'll get 100 photos of this guy, okay? And like the settings are all the same. You're like, oh, I have to go to smoothing and shift the edge, and often you'll get to the same point. Like you've kind of played around with it for a while. Down the bottom here, you can say remember settings. Every time you load this back up, it's gonna remember the last thing you did, which can save yourself some time. The other thing to note is that we are in this one here, so high quality preview is not turned on. Okay, mainly because it takes a long time to calculate and it makes your machine run really slowly. So if you're here and you're like, oh man, it's 95% there, click OK. You might find that in that last little bit of processing, it finishes it all up for you. So it's good. Even the hair is actually fine enough for what I want to do. But now I might go back in and work on the hair. He's got a pretty easy hairstyle, like mine. I'm mostly bald, so masking me, pretty easy. Masking this guy, small brush, just testing here really. I didn't practice this, I'm just gonna, do I like it? I think it adds a little bit. Test decontaminate colors. Don't like that. And remember, if you turn that on, it instantly changes. Actually, decontaminate colors, and let's lower it down a little bit. Still doing some weird stuff across here. It's mainly because the blue from the containers reaching around. I think I like it on, but with the amount down a bit. That slider there is new as well. Well, at least my version, that wasn't there before. So it was either on or off. What you'll notice down here, where it says output 2. You can't go back to that original layer mask. It'll say, I'll make a layer mask, but it has to be a brand new layer. Why? Because it does some weird stuff. First of all, I don't like it. I'm probably gonna go back. But if you did my Essentials course, you'll know that if I disable this mask, you'll see it does some weird stuff to the actual original image. That's why it leaves the original behind. If you're wondering like, man, it's a pain, it just creates this new layer. It's because it actually destroys the original to make this thing happen. They decontaminate colors, which a lot of the time is pretty amazing. In this case, I don't like it, so I'm just gonna go back to the original one I had. A little bit soft on the edges, but I'm okay with that. Pretty cool mask. That layer selected, remember, all I need to do is go Command C, Command V, brings you the layer mask, as well as the image. If you're on a PC, it's Control C, Control V. And this guy here is nice. All right, I hope you enjoyed that tool. It's called Select Subject. But I hope I've made it a little bit more usable when you get results that are subpar. You can fix a lot of it in Select and Mask. And if you've got big chunks that are missing, you can use that quick selection tool. There's a combo deal. Now, next steps, if I was you, I would look into a technique called color range selection. I'd look at a channel mask selection, and I'd look at the object selection tool. Those are great next steps to get kind of your selection muscle up in Photoshop. If you did want to, I've got all those how-to tutorials in my Photoshop course. There'll be links for that course in the description. So if you are sick of zigzagging your way around YouTube and you're just trying to get better, you just want a clear, structured, step-by-step tutorial, yeah, check out my course. In addition to the videos, there are creative challenges, there's teaching support as well, and the all-important certificate. All right, that's it. Hopefully see you in the Photoshop course. But for now, I'm Dan Scott. Ka kite. I'm gonna sit here dreaming of maybe regrowing my fringe.